In this video, we're going to solve some questions where we're asked to find theta, and in these we're asked to find theta in standard position between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. So for each of these questions, we're going to have two values of theta, because don't forget, for example, in the first, we're going to have cosine, and that can be positive in two different quadrants. So we want to find both places where the cosine of theta is equal to 0.6128. And similarly in the remaining questions. So we're going to do the same procedure in all of them. We're going to start by finding the reference angle. So the reference angle is the cosine inverse of the ratio that we're given, in this case 0.6128. And so the reference angle, which we know is going to be quadrant 1, we go to our calculator, cosine inverse of 0.6128. We should check our mode. It's in degrees. We want degrees, so that's good. Enter 52 degrees, or we have 4 decimal places, so why don't we take 4 significant digits? 52.1 degrees. So that's our reference angle, so we know that's quadrant 1. We have cosine positive, so off to the side here we're going to sketch all sine, tan, and cosine positive. So that tells us then, if we look over at our quadrants, that we need our answer in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4, because those are the places where cosine is positive. So the angle in quadrant 1, well, that's equal to the reference angle. So there's our quadrant 1 angle. In quadrant 4, we have to take 360 degrees minus our reference angle, which tells us, if we go to our calculator, 360 minus our reference angle, 52.21, that's 307.79 degrees. So there we have quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, which are the two places where cosine can be positive. So we'll go ahead to the next one now. We start reference angle first. So that's going to be the cosine inverse of root 2 over 2. It gives us exactly 45 degrees. Then we need to say, okay, where is cosine positive? So we figure out our quadrants. Well, again, that's quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. So in quadrant 1, theta is equal to the reference angle, so 45 degrees. In quadrant 4, theta is going to be 360 minus the reference angle, so minus 45, which is going to give us theta equal to 315. And if we just want to check on our calculator cosine of 315, we get 0.7071, and that's the right answer because root 2 over 2 is approximately 0.71, and you notice it's actually the same to all digits there. So we'll move to the next one. Again, start with alpha, find the reference angle. So the reference angle is, in this case, the sine inverse of 0.9272. So our reference angle, sine inverse of 0.9272. That gives us 68 degrees rounded to 2 decimal places, or 4 significant digits. And now we have sine positive. So checking back at our diagram, sine is positive in quadrant 1 and 2. So here we're looking for quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. In quadrant 1, theta is our reference angle, so 68. In quadrant 2, we have 180 degrees minus our reference angle. And that gives us 112 degrees. So there's our two angles, 68 and 112. So we'll finish the last two then. In D, we're going to first find the reference angle, but remember, we want to force the calculator to tell us the quadrant 1 angle, and to do that, we're just going to ignore the negative. The negative is not going to change our answer, it just changes our quadrant. So since we want the quadrant 1 to get the reference angle, we can just do it by ignoring the negative. So 2756. That tells us, rounded to 4 significant digits, we get 16 degrees. So that's not the sine inverse of negative 0.2756, but just 0.2756, because remember, the negative is only telling us the quadrant. So the reference angle in quadrant 1 is 16. Now we determine, well, it's negative, so that has to be quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. And so in quadrant 3, theta is equal to 180 plus our reference angle, so plus 16. In quadrant 4, we're going to get 360 minus our reference angle. Remember, it's always 180 or 360, never 90 or 270. That would be with the y-axis. Make sure these angles are always with the x-axis. So we get 196 and 344. And if we did a quick check, the sine of 196, negative 2756, which is what we have, and sine of 344 is the same. So our answer is good. And so our final example then, reference angle, tan inverse of, and again we're going to ignore the negative because we just want the reference angle first. So we can ignore the negative to get the reference angle in quadrant 1. So tan inverse gives us 61.35. 61.35 rounded to 4 digits. Tan is negative, so tan is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. So in quadrant 2 we get 180 degrees minus the reference angle, and in quadrant 4 we get 360 degrees minus the reference angle. And so in quadrant 2 that's going to be 118.65 degrees. And in quadrant 4, we'll just double check it on the calculator here, 360 minus 61.35. It's going to give us 298.65. So we'll stop this lesson here. We'll move to some different kinds of examples in the next lesson. I hope you tried these before the video and you checked to make sure you got them right. If not, go back and try them again now, or make up some new ones and make sure you can get them right. If you're having trouble with these, make sure you get help as soon as you can, and we'll see you in the next lesson.